Thursday's plenary session read the committee's letter detailing the proposed dates. Also, the National Union of Electricity Employees Kaduna Electric Distribution Company chapter suspended the definite strike that led to a prolonged power outage in Kaduna, Zamfara. This is coming after intervention of the governor was where the meeting with the president of Kaduna Electric and the Labour Union, and the federal government granted approval for the Ministry of Health and Welfare to ratify the African Medicine Agency AMA Treaty. Professor the Minister of Health and Social Welfare put this approval during a briefing with House correspondent to the FEC meeting. The federal government debunked scrapping junior secondary school and senior secondary school education model in Nigeria. The Minister of Education, Hausa, was speaking at a news conference in Abuja on Friday, said the information was not true. He disclosed that he presented the proposal for discussion, not an immediate policy change, adding that the proposal seeks to migrate to 12 years of compulsory education while retaining the current 633 structure. These are get our attention today. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's episode of Firecrackers. My name is Iribami Salako. First, let us go on this break because we are starting with health today, and that we'll see this break on possibility of Ebola resurgence in Nigeria. And when we come back, we'll be looking at management of disease outbreak in Nigeria and Africa. Do stay with us.
At a time when the country is grappling with plans and how to manage the existing and ravaging ailments such as the AIDS, tuberculosis, and other dangerous diseases, in the wake of withdrawal from the World Organization, Africa is faced with the resurgence of Ebola, a disease that Nigeria by an index patient Patrick Sawyer, which potentially exposed persons at the airport and the hospital to danger. In all, 20 cases were recorded in Nigeria between July and September 2014, with 8 deaths and a case fatality ratio of 40%, a figure that was higher than that of Sierra Leone, but lower than Liberia and Guinea at that time. The resurgence of the deadly disease, as reported by the Ugandan health officials on Thursday last week, calls for worry. The officials had confirmed the case of Ebola in the Kampala in a nurse who sought care at facilities before it was known they were suffering from the disease. It is the country's 7th Ebola outbreak, of no one at the hospital, healthcare workers' opinion, has yet shown signs of the disease. Everyone, especially Nigerians, have concerned that Ebola may be imported again into the country if necessary measures are not taken. They want the government to take immediate action to contain the outbreak should it be brought to the country.
Government, we have our entry points into the country. Some fly by, some come by sea, and the other illegal means. The government has to put measures in our to make sure there are health facilities to be able to anybody coming in or living in the country
put in place so that any incoming person to the country, make sure that he will be thoroughly checked. By so doing, I think government by its own side will definitely contribute immensely to the spread of Ebola. And at the same time, all the airports and other designated, entry points has to be thoroughly checked. And by so doing too, I think progress will be made.
For now, since it has not gotten to Nigeria, I think government ensure that they take proper, care of our border. So there should not be, unnecessary inflow of people from other countries. They should make sure they do thorough checking. And I don't know if there is vaccine for Ebola. If there is, they should make sure that anybody that will be into this country should provide evidence that such person has been vaccinated against this Ebola.
Others want the legislature to enact laws requiring thorough testing and the presentation of verified and accurate health results for anyone entering the country, and for citizens to be mindful of their personal hygiene, report such cases as neighbors displaying unusual symptoms of illnesses to relevant authorities.
They have to take care of their personal hygiene.
Nigerians just need to support the government by reporting suspected cases in the neighborhood. That way, the impact may not be much.
To all of you back, if you're joining us, this is Firecrackers and we're just about to get started. So we have Professor Oyewale Tomori, who is joining us live from Ibadan. Stand by, he's a virologist. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Okay, all right. So straight to the topic we have at hand, which is management of disease outbreak in Nigeria. We know that Ebola is having in some African countries. It's fear that it might get to Nigeria. But look at how managed the Ebola outbreak we had in Nigeria in the past, and we know that technology has even improved when it comes to medicine, the technology used in medicine. Do you think that Nigeria might be better equipped at this time to handle outbreak of Ebola? We hope it does not reach Nigeria, but if it reaches Nigeria, are we capable of handling it better than we did the last time?
I wish I could say with confidence that we would. Yes, we did well in 2014 when we came into Lagos. The Lagos state government came with assistance from everybody. And like it was reported, we reported only 20 cases and 8 deaths. But when we say we are handling Lassa fever in Nigeria annually, the way we have the same problem, increasing number of cases of Lassa fever in the country. Give me that if Ebola comes, we'll be able to handle it. We say we are prepared, but preparation is different. A student can prepare for an exam, the result I would whether it was ready or not. So with the way we've been handling, it's like we're the lessons of 2014, and that is like last on every year, and we don't have a solution to it.
All right, but from your point of view, like you said, Lassa fever is an outbreak that we have yearly, especially in Nigeria. Not only there, but it still spreads across Nigeria. What do you think we could have done differently with Lassa fever? Not keep having a retell of the same story over and over again.
You see, basic thing, what Lagos did at that time, simple disease surveillance, what we call contact tracing, getting the community involved, people reporting the cases to them, and then following up, tracing the contacts, isolating the cases, and managing them. Those are the basic essentials of preventing a disease or of nipping a disease in the bud and doesn't become a big and major issue. I think we somehow in our community that they have a major role to play. This issue about, I had somebody talking about people coming into the country and all that one. How well, really, can NCDC tell us? And those of us who have been at the port, when we're coming in, we know that the way they handle it is a joke. And nobody takes it seriously. People don't fill the form rightly. The people do it correctly. So we need to properly give awareness to our people that this is for your own good. It's for the life of everybody. And therefore, take it seriously. And when NCDC says, let them give us a feedback of what they found by all those things. If you keep telling me to fill a form and I don't hear anything out of it, of course, forget about it. I won't do it next time. I think the sound is lost.
Where we are having much problem, where is the problem coming from? Because we know that the NCDC, they always try to inform us, okay, they add suspected cases, they add confirmed cases. It seems that that might still not be enough. So what would you pinpoint to be the challenge in making sure that they get information and then it is still disseminated to the public so that they would be aware and do the right thing so that they might protect themselves and even us?
You've hit the nail on the head. You said disseminate information. It is not the gathering information and putting it on your website. Who reads your website? Get that information in the form that the people on the street make use of going on. Everybody is using the, what do you call it, these WhatsApp that we're doing. What can they make use of such things? Because what people read, not their website. Get that information in a way that is many people can understand it, so that keep alerting them on a daily basis. Danger coming on. And when you talk about people going out of the country, for example, you are focusing on Uganda, but you forget that there's a hub that brings everybody. Anybody come from that eastern part of Africa who has to pass through Addis Ababa or some big post Kenya where they can mix with people coming from Uganda. That's the kind of message you need to be sending out. Don't tell me, oh, those coming from Uganda. Those coming from that area of Africa. Particularly, as I said, Addis Ababa is the hub where everybody can meet. So anybody coming from that area should be properly monitored when they are coming in. And we should be seriously form filling at the port. We shouldn't take it with the carelessness we are taking it right now.
Okay, all right. Now, when we are looking at diseases, usually is an area we get disease, and then we are oftentimes relying on foreign aid to help us manage diseases. We have issues of during COVID-19 time, we had vaccines coming in from foreign agencies to try to help us prevent it here in Nigeria. And then we also, not only for COVID, a lot of disease outbreak that we usually have when it comes to vaccine development, even for, are still always relying on foreign aids. I know that the President of the United States is stopping foreign aid, especially to developing countries. What lesson do you think Nigeria as a country could take from this, so that we not always be at the of foreign aid the time that we're having this that even originated from here, but we are relying on foreign aid to take care of it?
You know, a lot of people may not like Trump, but what he's doing now, I think, is a great thing for us in Africa. Time for us to wake up and stop depending on resources from outside the country. They call us, what the name did they give us? They say we are resource limited, resource handicap, resource constraint. The greatest lie you can ever tell anybody in the world. We are not resource limited. We are only resource wasteful, and we are resource squandering. If you don't know your problem, you never find a solution to it. You think we are resource limited, you think we are handicapped, and that's why we go begging for everything. But we know we are not. We have enough in our country, if we use it properly, to take care of our problem. Other countries are using their own money to do that. Why are we waiting for donors to come and take up? When we're making the babies, we don't call donors. When it's time to give them vaccine, we start calling donors. If you give your children, take care of your children, then take note of this you are doing. So let me put it this way. At the time enough, it's a call for all of us, especially in Nigeria. But I'm glad, I think there was a report recently where they've put some money aside to forestall the outcome of what Trump was going to do. It is not a piecemeal thing. It's a general thing. We should look at the whole health system, the whole of our system in particular. We have resources in this great country to take care of the basic essentials of our people. But when our leaders, our politicians waste this money, and that's why we become beggars to the world. Back to the real priorities, get our funds what we need to do, take care of the health, much smaller, is affordable than having to wait for us to get funds to control those disease outbreaks. How much money do you put for somebody who has died or if a disease you can't prevent?
That we know that the federal government recently granted approval for Ministry of Health and Social Welfare to ratify the African Medicines Agency, that is the AMA treaty. How do you see this initiative probably influencing how we view our own homemade drugs? That is our
the hospitals in my village, but I grew up on medicine. It is the duty of all scientists to begin to investigate those. You saw what the Chinese did. They did not abandon their own tradition. They followed they carry out. It is for us to put our money where our mouth is. And this treaty that the government has signed is a first step in the right direction.
Okay, and what about for the medical professionals themselves? Because a lot of medical professionals that I usually talk to, they always seem to have this aversion when it comes to the African medicine dosage, it affecting some, having dire side effects, which we could also argue same too for the Western medicine, because you could use a medicine now and it's going to your system. So to the next, so if this fact that both of these drugs usually have bad side effects, none of them is completely devoid of bad side effect, but we still have medical professionals
and come down and learn about our people and the needs of people, find out what is happening, and then that sign that we have to make it better for them.
One of the things that always come up is the issue of funding, because a lot of people say they actually want to do these things, but then they are not getting funding from the government. And then we had cases in the past where the foreign pharmaceutical used our people here as guinea pig. That was far back, like almost 28 years ago or thereabout. You give to the government when it comes to funding research, especially when it comes to health and creation of medicine to save our own people here.
Thank you very much. You know, the issue of being used as guinea pigs, I think we also need to disabuse our mind. A lot of the vaccines that come out, some has been tested with it before they bring it to us. So if those people can accept to be guinea pigs, what's wrong with us being guinea pigs? You cannot eat your cake and have it and say, oh, they didn't test this virus in my country, this vaccine in my country, therefore we're not going to use it. But when you call you come and join in test, you say, oh, no, I don't want to be using guinea pig. We have to make up our mind what we want. If we want to test, after all, the drugs we are trials, whether we like it or not. That's number one. Number two, you mentioned what happened at the, I think it was 1994, if I remember, the Pfizer tests of what happened. But remember, Pfizer couldn't come into the country without approval. Somebody within your government approved that thing, illegally or whatever. So we are responsible for some of the problems you have. Pfizer couldn't fly into Kano and do what they wanted to do without anybody from one of the ministries approving them coming in. So when we are blaming all these external people, blame, you remember the cases, Obasanjo and Buhari had to go and case for Nigeria. Somebody signed that document in the ministry of whatever ministry signed it. So let's examine ourselves. We are responsible for some of the problems they are having. So back to the question you are saying, we need to now come out bold enough, get involved in what is going on in the new drugs that are coming up. Right now, the Ebola in Uganda, a new vaccine is tested. People are coming out and getting used to it. But if he's coming to Nigeria, he says, oh no, I don't want to be a guinea pig. Somebody has to be a guinea pig somewhere. And they were guinea pigs for the vaccines we're using here today. So what's wrong with us being guinea pigs?
Aspect of the clinical trials, having these test trials, should the people who are partaking in it not be duly informed? Because one is 1996, it seems as if the parents were saying that they were not told that it is experimental and it's something new that they are trying. At least if they had signed some forms, then the company might have been protected from these allegations. But since these things are not signed, what about the ethical part of it? If fine, we need guinea pigs, so to speak, to test efficacy of drugs, but should we not also consider the ethical and moral side of it too?
No clinical trial is done without consideration of ethical rules, whether they're doing it in Europe or wherever. The rules are there, the guidelines are there. People are pick me on the street and then start saying I'm part of the trial. You read it to me, I understand it, I make up my mind, I want to do it. I don't want to do it. Nobody forces anybody. So let's go back to what we're saying about the Pfizer trial. The average man on the street is the educated people like us who signed the form and allow Pfizer to come in. It's not the man in the street. It is my duty to explain this thing to my people. This is what is happening. These are the side effects. This is the benefit. Anything you do, you get the benefit over the and say if the benefits are more, you accept it. There's no drug you use that doesn't have a side effect. There's not, even if you drink water too much, you're going to have a problem. And if out of 10 people you give this vaccine choice, will you use the vaccine or will you wait to get the disease? Those are the messages we need to pass to our people. I don't think there's anyone who does clinical trial without looking at all the ethical consideration. It is, and most of the trials we're doing in Nigeria, I know that people are informed. They even translate it to the local language. And if they don't understand, you call an elderly person who understands to explain it to them. So nothing is done on that. What happened in Kano was an aberration. Some irresponsible government official signed something. We shouldn't, because of that, discounting our clinical trials. No, it's still left for me and you to do what is right. The ethical is for me to do the right thing. That's what we're asking for. And if that is done, there's no reason why none of us should be involved in clinical trials.
Okay, all right. And then what would you advise to governments when it comes to funding research so that we would be having our own locally made drugs for different diseases that we have in the country?
So, you see, you raised a very, very important point. I think one of the things, ignorance is very bad. You see, the returns on research, returns on investment in research, is almost about, see the millions they are raking and putting in their bank account. A government that puts its money into research is going to reap benefits for the people. So this is the message we need to tell our government, that in the little amount of money put into it, which will eventually be translated to be big thing and big tax for you, why are we not thinking about that? I mean, these are the messages we need to, I'm glad you raised it up. As you get to our government, when you invest in research, the returns are million-folds. And the guy who discovered the internet, how much did they put in it? So how much are they making out of the internet today? And so many other things that you and I are using. You're talking of WhatsApp, you're talking of bank transfer, all this. Somebody developed that, and the whole world is using it. So our country, our government, our people must begin to see that there is need to look for, put some money into that amount of money you put in the research is 1/10, 1/100 of what you will benefit from it. Let that message go to our government. Put money into research. Don't depend on other people's research. You're going to be paying for it. You don't get anything by depending on other people's research. Do your own, solve your own problem.
Comes ailing us in Africa. We've had some Africans who they had to draft, they conducted research, and then they gave solutions to some of these diseases. But then suddenly, they just seem to disappear. Although there is a conspiracy theory about that when it comes to eliminating things that might affect them when it comes to generating money through the pharmaceuticals. So how would you see governments of our own countries could actually help these people coming up with a solution? Maybe when it comes to protection of their life, their families, because it has happened quite a number of times that Africans that have come up, even not only in Africa alone, even in some of the advanced countries, people who have come up with cheaper alternative sources to diseases, problems, they just suddenly disappear and don't hear from them anymore. So what do you think the government of our own country could do in protecting these talented individuals?
It's not the government alone. Government can do it. Government up to a point, put fund research, translate research into product. It's the business of the private industry. The private industry in Africa, buy and sell. They would never invest money into it. They're only waiting to reap benefit, just buy and sell. All we mentioned COVID vaccine, Pfizer, whatever, Moderna, whatever, they put money into that, but they reap the benefit. It wasn't the government of the United States that did that. It was a private company. This is where the private comes in. The government comes to create the enabling environment for good research to be done. The product then is transferred to the private industry. Private industry must be an attitude, not just go and buy something from China and come and sell to me, go back to China and go and say, you're in China, you're worse situation. We need to get those research products are done. I mean, research out any environment. If they're going to, you know, what to go into industry in Nigeria, tax there. So must work, the government and the sector must work. Each one has his role to at its own pace. So we need to identify those roles. Let government do its role. Let private do its role. And where both of them need to, let's identify it and get it. And that's the only way we can make a difference. Create the enabling environment for all these things to function. All those kind of things. That's government business. Industries, so them invest in that and make something out of it. Again, government gain from that because they will tax you for the prep. It's gaining again for everybody. See why we're so don't know, I want to use it in our region.
Okay, all right. Just one final question before we go. This of brain drain that we're after, medical professionals leaving the country in droves, and there's no how that is still going to affect us. So what would be your advice to the government when it comes to management of brain drain syndrome that we see having in our medical sector?
This country in droves. The question is, why are they living? The environment, the environment for them to function. A lot of people are not living because of money or whatever. You train as a doctor. You can't get the appointment. You get to the hospital, you can't even see what to work with. You professionally, you are disappointed. So of course, people go out to satisfy their professional thing. But the law I'm saying is that I must create the enabling environment for people to stay. Don't talk of capacity when you cannot retain the capacity. And the way to retain that conducive environment that you have trained can. I keep saying it. My generation stayed because there was everything that I needed to do. I didn't have to go overseas. I didn't study in Nigeria. I did all my study here. And by the grace of Nigeria gave me, I can stand now anywhere because government created the enabling environment. Come home. What drove them away from this place? The poor environment. Did it improve? No, it has gotten worse. And then you want them to come back. Come back to what? So I got my people at home. Those are the things, government, address your own first, and the people will stay. Nobody will improve this. See how even Trump is driving them out now. They have you do. So we need to move that the environment at home to make sure training are staying. Simple. ABC.
All right, we thank you so much, Professor Thomas, for joining us live on Firecrackers today. Thank you so much for sharing with us from the of experience. We truly appreciate your efforts.
I hope the fire will crack our government to do the right thing.
We could only hope. Thank you so much. And that's Professor
All right,
who joined us live from Ibadan. He's a virologist. So now it's time for us to move on to the second aspect of this show, that is the evaluation of education in Nigeria. But before we do that, let's just on this break, that is the federal government denying scrapping JSS and SSS model in Nigeria. And when we come back, we'll have a guest on standby and we'll begin discussions on it. To stay with us.
The federal government has debunked the scrapping of the junior secondary school and senior secondary school education models in Nigeria. The Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, while speaking at a news conference in Abuja, said the information was not true. Olatunji Alausa disclosed that he presented a proposal for discussions that an immediate policy change, adding that the proposal seeks to migrate to 12 years of compulsory education while retaining the examination barrier between JSS and SSS, allowing for a seamless transition of students without the orders of an external assessment at that stage. The minister declared that the ministry will ensure a well-informed and undertake extensive stakeholders engagement over the next 8 months, consulting widely with education policymakers, state governments, teachers, parents, and others at the October 2025 National Council on Education meeting.
And I want to clearly clear the sensationalization that has gone out since yesterday, that the Federal Ministry of Education, the federal government, has scrapped a GSS and SS, primary school GSS and SS education. We have not. That still stays. What we're saying that we need to move from what we have now as 9 years compulsory education to 12 years of compulsory education as it's obtained in other parts of the world. If you look back into the history of Nigeria, 30 years ago, 40 years ago,
Thank you so much for staying with us. If you're just joining us, this is Firecrackers. You've missed quite a lot, but don't worry, you can catch up with us on our Facebook and YouTube channel. We're streaming live there. And now we have Olariwa Joni, who will join us live from Lagos. She is a founder, Seed Care and Support Foundation. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on Firecrackers at this time.
Hi, nice to be here.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. So now to the topic that we have at hand, that's the evaluation of education in Nigeria. We just played the report now of the Minister of Education trying to reshape people's perspective on what had happened during a meeting that they had, that they are not trying to scrap the GSS and SSS, but they are just trying to remodify it in a way so that children would not be having to, one of the reasons is that the children would not be having to so many examinations to cross from JSS to SSS. How do you see that development?
Okay, so just the minister said, one of the reasons proposed is to align with the global structure of 12 years of continuing education, which, you know, has its own benefits. We cannot, you know, say that that is not a great thing, but just try to say we need to align to global things, but we're not addressing our unique challenges. And our first unique challenge is the fact that our foundation is very poor. So, we have issues around foundational literacy and numeracy, our learning poverty, which is, you know, children not being able to read at the age of 10 is almost at 70%. So yes, this is a great, you know, policy or thing posing, but are we really addressing the root cause of our challenges? And our challenge is that our children are not learning. Learning outcomes should be the North Star of how we're structuring our education system. Just adding years, additional years is not, it is a great thing, but it's not just the only thing. We need that we're having a holistic solution to our challenges. And yes, having exams is leading to a lot of attrition in our education system. I acknowledge that a lot of children, you know, drop out at 9 years of education. Removing that barrier would encourage children to stay in school. And also, if we're able to make that additional 3 years events, we'll find more children staying in school, because we're not asking ourselves the real question, why are they leaving? And so just plastering additional 3 years to say they must stay, you know, is the ultimate solution. It's a great recommendation, but it's not.
Some stakeholders have opined that perhaps we need to tailor our education in Nigeria to address some of our pressing issues. People use countries like China, for example, how they have been able to remodel their education. You see their kids in school, they are already learning things like carpentry, engineering, and things like that. Do you think that perhaps it's something that we could also adopt in Nigeria when it comes to incorporating maybe entrepreneurship, creativity, craft, and things like that, catching them while they're young? Do you think that perhaps this new remodeling should also incorporate things like that, so we don't have kids, even if they don't wish to go to university, while they are done with secondary school, they could still get started on something that will be able to benefit the country and also them symbiotically? What do you see about such initiative?
All right, so it's important that we evaluate what our country really needs, ensure that our education system for us. So it's not just about need for our education system to deliver that for us. So my opinion is that, yes, we need to ensure that we're giving skills to our children. It's very important. Why are children dropping out of school? We need to ask ourselves those questions. If our children are leaving because they cannot see the interaction between why school and what the labor market is asking for. So they are going to school, they cannot see the reason going to school, linking to how their future looks like, then there's no need. So they just drop off. One of the analysis that was done in Lagos State at the point the comprehensive school program was on for senior secondary school to keep children in school, it was found that a lot of children were leaving because they needed to start earning income, and they were not learning trades that would allow them to be able to start earning income. And so that program was then designed to be able to give the children some vocational training so that they can stay in school. So it's important that we engage our young people, our children, in things that are relevant for the market. So like you mentioned, entrepreneurship. I wrote an entrepreneurship book for 7-year-olds, and people were like, how will children learn entrepreneurship at 7? I learned entrepreneurship from my mom, who was a market woman. I was able to understand marketing. I was able to understand accounting, even from when I was a child. And so it's critical that our children are not only book smart, they're also street smart, they understand. Because like we understand, not every single person or young person in Nigeria would go to university. And so is our secondary school education providing what our children need to be able to go into the labor market if they decide to. So that's the question we need to ask ourselves. And that goes back into the curriculum. Now, is our curriculum preparing children, for the workforce, for the market? What we do is a lot of memorization. Our lesson notes, as simple as the lesson notes of our teachers, if you look at the objective of those lessons, they're saying, at the end of this lesson, children will be able to define this. We're not defining. They should be able to do certain things when they are done with the lesson. Most of our lessons should be project-based. When they are done with that lesson, they know what to do with it. And it's not even only skills. Our subjects must be linked to the real world. I was a child with mathematics because I didn't understand how that linked to my life. So they taught me set theory to do what? Angle of elevation and depression to do what? So if it is not clear as to how this is linked to my life and how I'm going to use it in the real life, in the real world, then I'm not truly learning, and I'm not truly learning for my use, for my skills, and for me being able to give back to my society and my community. So that's the way I think we need to rethink education, because right now we're just about, going to school, A or B or C, and exams that we don't need to. Uganda right now, they go up to P7 primary. They are also considering scrapping P7 and scrapping primary living education. So every country is rethinking it right now, but we need to rethink education in the context of ensuring that our children see the relevance between learning in the classroom and the real world.
Okay, so for this restructuring, what are the things that you would like to say you feel could be answers to of the basic problems that we are having in Nigeria, that if it is incorporated in our education, maybe in a few years' time, Nigeria could be one of those leading economies in the world?
So the thing is to look at the critical things, and there are clearly certain critical things that we need to look at. The first is curriculum, and I'm going to talk straight to NERDC. They're working on the curriculum. Let's acknowledge that they're doing work, but we also need to ensure that the work that we're doing leads to improved learning outcomes, not just cramping the curriculum with multiple subjects. We need to ensure that what these subjects, entail are relevant for the society, one, and then the way the lessons are structured are ensuring that we're looking at great outcomes. So we're looking at objectives that are relevant, not just defining or listing the characteristics, but really how do these things, translate to learning? And that's, my first. And then I would go back to teacher training. So there's no way we can, diverge education from the person that is imparting that knowledge. Teachers to be able to deliver the proper curriculum. So curriculum is one, the person delivering the curriculum is also very critical. And that's why we say that learning can take place anywhere, under a tree, if you have a great teacher. So we need to ensure that our teachers are properly equipped they understand the curriculum, they're able to deliver, and they have the right to be able to ensure that they deliver this right education for them. So foundational literacy and numeracy, we need to ensure if a child cannot read the language of instruction, then there's nothing you can do. Whether they're using their mother tongue, whether they're doing it in English, we need to ensure that we are ensuring that the foundational literacy and numeracy, we can build on it with additional years of education so that they can continue to learn, the skills and other things that they require for the labor market. So first, curriculum. Second, our teachers. Then third, I would like to look at ensuring quality across board. And quality is a big thing that we don't have time to discuss on this segment, but it's important that we ensure quality assurance. Is what is ensuring that every time the school can deliver quality education for the child that they serve.
Thank you, Ora. Speaking about the language of instruction, which would you advocate might be better for kids that are learning? Is it the mother tongue or...
Sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't get your question.
Okay, I was asking about the language of instruction in schools.
That is what we should be saying that or proposing that this should be scrapped. There are challenges with implementation, addressing those challenges. So if we take Nigeria, for instance, we have some homogeneous states that they speak predominantly one language. So if you take maybe Oyo State, predominantly you would see Yoruba there. But when you come to Lagos, we're heterogeneous, we are a melting pot of different tribes in Nigeria. The tongue policy might be a challenge in a state like Lagos. So it is not to say that the tongue policy is not working in Nigeria. It is to say that we have certain challenges in states and how to address it. Because research has shown that this is something that works. It is not just for us to scrap it because we're having challenges in implementation. We have not fully, our mouth, where our mouth is when it comes to mother tongue in Nigeria, but research has shown this is something that should not be discouraged. Just really look at NGO, looking at how we those words. But for those that are predominantly homogeneous, they speak more, they can still address the issues when it comes to local government. If a certain local government speaks a predominant language, that can use language of instruction in those local governments. But this is not a policy to be discarded.
Okay, all right. Looking at all the restructuring government seem to want to do, that is when it comes to our unities, separating them into basic and secondary school. How do you see that now in the country? Because it seems as if it wants to be modeled or after the US education system of having the middle school, the GI and the high school. See that working for Nigeria?
Sometimes the structure is really not what is education. It's to define the structure, but it's also for us to say what are we doing. So whether you call it grade 1 to 12, which is 12 years, or you call it 3, 3, 4, which adds up to 12, it's still 12 years. Whether you now set it as 9, 3 or 6, 3, 3, it is what outcomes. That's my own opinion. What are we trying to do? By the time we start doing it, vision is based on, exams leading to the next segment. That's where I have too many exams leading to the next section. That's where I have a challenge. So it's like saying, okay, we want to divide it into 3, 3, 3, 3. So lower primary, upper primary, junior secondary, senior secondary, and there'll be at lower primary to get to upper primary. There'll be exam from upper primary to get to junior 1. It's really about, how the children transition from one section to the other. That is, losing a lot of children in the system. So for me, it is how are we looking at the system itself rather than the structure? That's the main learning outcome, how our children are doing them to what happened in the world and what Nigeria needs is what we should be looking at. So, I mean, I wouldn't focus too much on the 12, 4, 3. I mean, like I said, everything adds up to 12.
All right, so our question before we finally let you go. Do you think the Nigerian government perhaps to back free education our parents or even so for some older that the ones that they enjoy? Do you think that the federal government needs to bring that back so that it might ensure that every Nigerian child is well educated?
This is a very tough question. I mean, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria says that free education, up to even free education,